Bhadman brought another woman into his matrimonial bed while his wife lay asleep beside him. His wife is fast asleep, unaware that her husband is at the verge of engaging sexually with another woman right under her nose. The noise from the couple wakes her, and she rises with a face full of confusion at what she's witnessing. She immediately moves to confront her husband, but he immediately shouts at her not to interrupt his romance. When betrayal happens in plain sight, silence becomes the cruelest weapon. His wife taps him with a mouthful of questions, but instead of giving answers, Bhadman harshly orders her to leave the room so he can enjoy his mistress in peace. The mistress struggles to draw Bhadman's attention back to herself and urges him to ignore his wife, prompting him to immediately order his wife to leave. His wife, overwhelmed with hurt and humiliation from her husband's neglect, slowly gets up from the bed and walks out of the room in silence. When love turns cold in the very place it was promised to be warm, the silence of rejection cuts louder than words, and the weight of neglect becomes heavier than betrayal itself. The next morning, the mistress relaxes on the couch scrolling through her phone, boldly acting like the house belongs to her. The wife enters the sitting room, stunned to see the mistress seated comfortably on the couch, and angrily orders her to get out of her house. The mistress casts her a disdainful look, brushes off her words, and leisurely pours herself a glass of whiskey from the bottle. In anger, Bhadman's wife snatches the whiskey glass from the mistress and raises her voice to assert her authority, prompting Bhadman to rush into the sitting room. His mistress instantly changes her tone to a pitiful act before Bhadman, accusing his wife of treating her with rudeness. Bhadman calmly consoles his mistress and tells her to ignore his wife whenever she speaks, insisting that she holds no relevance to their romance. His wife continues to express her anger, and realizing that neither of them is listening, she storms out angrily. Nothing breaks a heart faster than being silenced in the place where your voice should matter the most. Bhadman's wife storms into the room, furious and heartbroken over how wrecked and defiled her marriage has become. In a single night, the warmth of her marriage has crumbled, and her home now feels like a brothel where strangers desecrate her matrimonial bed without shame. She calls Smart, her husband's closest friend, to report the recent events in her home, her words doubling as both an update and a desperate cry for help. She believes that since her own voice isn't strong enough to reach her husband, involving his best friend Smart might make her plea loud and significant enough to be heard. 2 days later, Bhadman fully moves his mistress into the house, showing no regard for his wife, as he and the mistress sit together enjoying each other's company on the couch. Their cozy moment is suddenly interrupted by a thunderous knock on the door, prompting Bhadman to quickly ask his mistress if she is expecting anyone. He slowly walks to the door and, upon opening it, is surprised to find his best friend Smart standing there. They both shake hands warmly, though Bhadman is still unsettled by his sudden visit. Already noticing the mistress on the couch, Smart calmly whispers to Bhadman that he wants a private discussion with him and asks him to kindly excuse the lady. When a friend pulls you aside in silence, it's often because they see the storm you've chosen to ignore. Bhadman moves to his mistress, sits beside her gently, and in a sweet tone informs her that his best friend Smart has an urgent matter to discuss privately, suggesting she wait for him in the bedroom. He promises to return to her side immediately after the discussion, and she nods in agreement, walking away with a mocking smile aimed at Smart. As she leaves, Bhadman moves to the other side of the couch and gestures for Smart to sit beside him, officially welcoming him into his home. He tries to pour a glass of whiskey for him, but Smart quickly stops him, saying he came for a more pressing matter and has no interest in drinking. He asks Bhadman who the woman on his couch was when he arrived, and Bhadman responds by teasingly asking if he finds her attractive. Smart dismisses the question about the mistress's attractiveness and confronts Bhadman directly, asking what he intends to accomplish by bringing another woman he's involved with sexually into his marital home. Bhadman quickly replies to Smart, warning that if he were in his position and knew what he knows about his marriage, he would act even more recklessly. Stunned by his reply, Smart asks Bhadman to explain what he has discovered. Bhadman, speaking calmly, tells Smart that his curiosity led him to the hospital for a DNA test on his son, only to suddenly discover that the child isn't biologically his. Smart is shocked to hear this and immediately voices his doubts, knowing Bhadman's wife to be a decent woman living a respectable life. Bhadman goes on to tell him that he conducted the DNA test in 3 different hospitals, and all results came back negative. There are truths so heavy that even the strongest bonds tremble under their weight, and some discoveries leave no room for doubt, only the harsh reality of betrayal. At that moment, Smart realizes that even he, as a man, would never tolerate raising another man's child in his home as a result of his wife's unfaithfulness. Smart asks Bhadman whether he ever had evidence of his wife's infidelity, confessing that he now fears what a DNA test on his own children might reveal. When trust is shaken, even the love for one's own children can be shadowed by fear and uncertainty. Still in shock from the revelation, Smart asks Bhadman if he has confronted his wife with the DNA results, but Bhadman firmly replies that there's no need, as he has already seen the proof. Even when the evidence is clear, confronting the guilty party is necessary so they understand the impact of their betrayal. Smart stands to leave, having heard enough about Bhadman's wife's betrayal, and tells Bhadman that he plans to conduct his own DNA test on his children to ensure they are his before he risks facing the same fate. The next day, Bhadman sits on his bed, reflecting on his conversation with Smart about whether to confront his wife with the truth regarding their child's paternity. He angrily calls out his wife's name, demanding that she come to the bed for an important discussion. His wife slowly approaches, and he immediately gestures for her to sit on the bed. She sits slowly, and Bhadman immediately confronts her with anger, questioning her audacity for involving his best friend Smart in their family matters. Dragging outsiders into personal conflicts often magnifies betrayal and deepens the wounds of trust. He then tells his wife that he knows she has been wondering why he brought another woman into their matrimonial bed, even with her still in the house. Betrayal is heaviest when it occurs under the very roof meant for love and trust. Bhadman asks his wife, with all seriousness, who the father of their son is, immediately throwing her into confusion as she quickly insists that he is the father. His wife immediately confronts him, asking why he would pose such a degrading question that implies she is unfaithful, while Bhadman watches and laughs at her reaction. He picks up the test result and hands it to her, and for a moment she holds it, confused about what the contents might reveal. She opens it and reads, while Bhadman watches, his expression showing that he has caught her and that no more lies can be told. To his surprise, his wife quickly dismisses the result as unreliable, insisting that she has been faithful throughout their marriage and is certain he is the father of her child. Even with the DNA result as evidence against her, his wife remains steadfast, insisting the result is not genuine, leaving Bhadman shocked by her refusal to acknowledge her betrayal. When truth meets stubborn denial, even the strongest evidence can feel powerless. With his wife crying and denying the evidence, Bhadman grows irritated and tells her that he will continue bringing different women into their bed, gesturing to show how he intends to enjoy them to spite her. When betrayal meets revenge, the home meant for love becomes a stage for cruelty. Bhadman's wife pleads with him to believe her and suggests they visit another hospital together for a DNA test, as she clearly doubts the results she has been shown. She also tells Bhadman that if they conduct another DNA test and it proves she has been unfaithful, she is willing to accept any punishment he deems fit. Her confidence in denying the result sparks a different feeling in Bhadman, as he silently begins to doubt the test and considers proving her wrong with another. He agrees to conduct the DNA test at another hospital she suggested and informs her that if the result remains the same, she will be forced to leave the marriage. Sometimes, the only way to uncover the truth is to challenge it, to test it again and again, for certainties born not from assumptions, but from evidence that cannot be denied.
VJ Rex Fashions presents The Power of Style, tailored to define greatness, built for leaders, dreamers, and men of purpose. Style like a Senator, dress like royalty, only at VJ Rex Fashions.
That same evening, the couple returns from the hospital, both visibly frustrated and angry at the results the test has revealed. Unfortunately for the couple, the new test reveals that the child belongs to neither Bhadman or his wife, whom he had accused of infidelity. On the night his wife gave birth, unbeknownst to them, she delivered a baby girl, but the nurse on duty swapped the child with a family seeking a baby girl, leaving them with another woman's son. The revelation of this truth plunges the couple into deep sadness, with Bhadman feeling ashamed of his recent actions toward his wife. Amid their sorrow, he musters the courage to apologize to his wife, begging her forgiveness and urging them both to love the child as their own. This is a lesson to everyone. Conducting a DNA test immediately after birth doesn't imply distrust of the wife. It simply confirms the child's parentage and prevents future confusion. Communication is key. Open dialogue can prevent misunderstandings from escalating. Thank you for watching this video. Please share this video and comment where you are watching from.